All right, blessings on your life, blessings and goodness to everybody. Let me just say this that John 10:10 says that the thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But then it says, the latter clause, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it. That's the life more abundantly. Before I even get started today, I want that to sink into your spirit because this is the gospel and this is the good news that Jesus came that you might have life and have that life more abundantly, no matter who you are and no matter where you are. It is the goal of Jesus. It is the reason for the blood that was shed. It is the reason for the cross. It is the reason for the stripes. It is the reason for the crown. It is the reason for um, uh, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and for everything that he did, everything that he went through. He did it so that you may have life and have that life more abundantly. When the enemy comes but for to steal, kill, and destroy, that means that he is trying to take away everything that you have and that you will ever have in life. That includes your mind. One of the things that I'm really trying to focus on is this area of dementia, because dementia is directly related to the enemy comes to steal. Ultimately, it gets to kill, to steal, kill, and destroy. But if he can steal a person's mind, we relate it to things like Alzheimer's and dementia, but that's the enemy coming to steal. A lot of people want to think of it in terms of stealing. He breaks into my house, he steals my money, he steals my car. We got to get away from this natural way of thinking about things, this worldly way of thinking about things. That's not really what it's about. The enemy, as long as he knows that you're going to stay on that with that mindset, then he don't have to bother you because you're only looking for him from one direction or from one dimension. But once you start to hone in on the enemy and to understand that he comes not just for stuff, tangible stuff, but he comes for your soul. He comes for your mind. The mind resides in the soul. And so if he can get so entrenched into those areas to where you start walking around absent of memory and all those things that go with this disease, then it makes him feel proud and like that he's accomplished. But he's not accomplished. Jesus came that we may have life and have that life more abundantly. Now that is the good news to my message on today, and I want to dive into another area that may not sound like the gospel, but I'm giving you the gospel up front, okay? Because a lot of people want a good feel, a good news, good feel story, and I'm here to give you that. But I'm also a very balanced preacher, in my opinion, and there is a lot of spiritual components to this that we need and that Jesus came for, that is wrapped up in the good news. But there's also the practicality, the praxis, if you will, of life that Jesus is also just as concerned about. And so I want to dive in on today, and I want to define some terms that are very important that maybe have went over your head, or that we have missed it, or I didn't define it quite well enough as it relates to some messages in the past. Now, I've been talking about a lot of things as it relates to Black History Month. I've been talking about the King's language. I've been talking about eunuchs and being castrated and those types of things. I want to look at the issue of a eunuch just very, very briefly today, before I get into my message. Today's message is testosterone depletion by force. Okay, so when we look at that, and I know we've been talking about this issue of being a eunuch or being castrated. So many of you may say, well, when you say a eunuch, what exactly is a eunuch? A eunuch. So a eunuch now actually means it is relegated to a male in its natural sense, in its natural environment. It is relegated to a male that has been affected in his growing area. In other words, his testicles have been altered, or they have been removed. They have been stricken in some way, form, or fashion. Whenever this happens, it ultimately leaves that person, that male, um, it leaves him compromised, as it were. It leaves him compromised. Now, the world, I know I use the world a lot, and I know that we stay in America. When I say that, I mean it interchangeably. When I say that, because a lot of times I'll just relate to the world because we are in the world, but we are not of the world. But the world now has done an injustice to a lot of things and a lot of people. So when I talk about systems and structures, and I may say something about maybe the world towards Black people, I don't necessarily mean the world. I'm really talking about America, the nation that we live in as it relates to African American people. I'm still talking about Black History Month. And so now when we look at this issue of a eunuch, and we understand that the the issue of a eunuch, it's relegated to the eunuch being castrated. The eunuch now is being castrated. I said the other day that a eunuch is castrated. I'm sorry, I keep looking down here. I'm not looking at anything but a handkerchief. The eunuch comes in three forms. Number one, a eunuch is born a eunuch. He's born a eunuch. That means that there was a biological, there was a defect in his birth, and that's the reason why he is born that way. There's another type of eunuch, and that eunuch is he elects to be a eunuch. There's nothing wrong with him physically, biologically. There's nothing wrong with him, but he chooses to be a eunuch. And a lot of us, we have to at some point make the choice to be a eunuch as it relates to Jesus. That means that we have to relinquish the strength, the rights. Sometimes it's our heart. Sometimes it's to forgive others. In other words, you have to dissolve. Paul says that I decrease that the Lord may increase. I decrease that the Lord may increase. And so that eunuch is to deplete himself of himself and increase himself in something other than himself, which in this case is Jesus. And so I want you to understand those two pieces now. Now, the last one, or those two pieces up to this point. Now, the last one is a eunuch that has been castrated by force. And I didn't think that I quite made that clear the last time. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. It is a eunuch that has been castrated by force. And so my last message, I really wanted to emphasize, and I hope that I got my point across. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but I wanted to highlight the idea of being too castrated. When I say too, T-O-O, too castrated, that is not to say that a person can be castrated and he almost castrated. It's not that. When you look at it natural, but when you look at it socially, when you look at it socioeconomically, when you look at it spiritually, when you look at it from a soul perspective, we can be castrated too much. That means that we have went beyond the point of the purpose, beyond the point of where the system wanted us to be at, beyond the point of the structuring. In other words, the ideology or the agenda, not the ideology, but the agenda of a person, we have went beyond that point. They were good if you just get to here, but when you get to there, to go beyond that point, then you make a mess of yourself. And at that point, it's kind of on you. It's like they're not doing it anymore, and it's like we're doing it to ourselves. Now, let's look at this eunuch, or let's look at castration from a scientific standpoint, if you will, to understand what it really is. it is a depletion of testosterone for males. It is a depletion of, and I'm just giving you a very truncated definition, but I'm giving you this so that you can understand ultimately where this message is going and the intent of this message. So scientifically, it is the depletion of the testosterone, and the testosterone is a hormone that is very necessary for men. It is a hormone that is very necessary for men. So when we become depleted of that particular hormone, what it's saying now is that I lose my manhood. I lose, there's a lot of things that I lose on the inside of me. And at that point, as long as I'm alive, I can be controlled. So it's hormonal control, and people that are educated, or people that have information and they become informed. That means that they take that information and they bring it into themselves. That the information can be useful for whatever purpose, plan, attack, plot, and strategy that they may have for other things or other people, that they can accomplish that. So when they understand medically that if we can, and biologically, that we can, that taking away the testosterone hormone from a male, what that is saying, or what that suggests, is that we can gain control. And so I was talking from Acts, the 8th chapter, and I'll go back and I'll read that in a few minutes. But the other thing that I want to bolt on to that today, very briefly, is I want to bolt onto it environmental castration. The environmental castration now, it's not necessarily that it's with a male. It's not relegated to men. It can be relegated also to women and children, just to people in general. And this is what has happened to the Black race. What that means now, or the point that I'm trying to make, is that sometimes we can be castrated by what we witness, by what we see. So case in point was, 500 years ago, and plus or minus, we can look at some of the tactics that was used to control the Black race. And some of the things that they would do is they would hang Black people from trees. And if they did that, they would call the town. And, they would have a town meeting, and they would make sure that all the Black people would be there in observation. So we want you to see that when you do a certain thing outside of our will, outside of our desire, this is what will happen to you. So now it becomes a matter of hormones control and testosterone depletion, but it's not just being cut at the testicles. Now it's being cut in the heart, is being cut in the mind, is being cut in the soul. So now I see certain things, and because I see it and it is so traumatic to me, I have come to a conclusion that I'm not going to step to that. I'm not going to come close to that. And so I'm going to stay in my place. I'm going to stay in my lane. And so at this point, you start to hang your head down low. You forget where you come from. You lose strength. You lose energy. You lose ambition, you lose hope. Just the you itself, you become depleted. And so this is how they started to take over a nation, or a nationality, or a race, if you will. And that race was Black people. And so I wanted to just talk about that just for a few seconds to lock in on that. I'm going to go back and just reach into the text now that I've been using just to bring even further clarity to what I have just said as it relates to the Ethiopian eunuch, and so that you would see this in even a different light and see how it has been applicable to us. Now, in Acts chapter number 8, beginning at verse number 31, I don't need to go back and rehearse all those other or re-say all those other verses, because I've said it already. Verse number 31, it says, and he said, how, let's just say this. So Philip was reading the Ethiopian eunuch was reading out of the book of Isaiah. And it was Philip now that was led by the Lord. And he says, go over and attach yourself to the carriage, if you will, or to the wagon that this Ethiopian eunuch was in. And he was sitting there. And if I could just use my imagination, I believe that he was just sitting there pondering. I think he was sitting there basically maybe looking for hope, searching for hope, despondent, if you will, looking at how far behind he was, knowing that he was absent, that he was missing a whole lot of things. Now, I know when you read the text says that he was the treasurer, basically. He was up under Candace, which was the queen of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian queen. So she had a whole lot of money, but you have to, and I don't have time to get into this right now because money is not the answer for everything. And I think a lot of us, and this is a lesson now to be pointed out, is that sometimes money does not suffice. It does not suffice. And when it does not suffice, then that means that I need something else to quench my thirst and my hunger. There's something that my soul is going after. And until we can get to the point to where we start to yearn for, to long, and to go after things that are not fleshy, things that are not perishable, things that are durable, things that will affect the soul, that will affect the mind, that will affect legacy. Until we start going after things like that, we will still be going in this downward spiral. So at some point, I believe that this eunuch was being awakened, if you will, not woke, but being awakened. Because sometimes we go through life and you get to a certain point or a certain age and you look back over your life and you said, man, I'm 60 years old now, I'm 50 years old, and I am not accomplished. And I've made so many mistakes, and I did this and I did that. But yet you look back and you look at all the money that you made, and you look at all the things that you've done in life. And then at the end of the day, they didn't amount to a hill of beans. It's like Esau in Jacob's story. Esau sold the birthright for a bowl of porridge, a bowl of beans that didn't even have no meat in it. That's just a little thing that they say. But you get the point. I mean, there's no value. There's no value. And I think what we're doing is we're devaluing ourselves so much by going after what the world is directing us into. And we may think that it's a whole lot. I want to get riches, but to get riches without knowledge, to get riches without wisdom and understanding, is to get something that's going to hurt you. Is to get something that's going to hurt you. So we have to start putting, how do I want to say it? We need to start appropriating it properly as it relates to the things that we long for. Now watch this here. So as we have that background, he's reading the book of Isaiah, and Philip said to him, he says that verse number 31, Acts 8:31, and he said, how can I accept? Now, Philip is asking him, understandeth thou what thou readeth? That's the question in verse number 30. And he says, and how can I accept some man should guide me? Now, I told you there's a good news story, which I prefaced it at the beginning of the message by telling you the good news, and that Jesus came to give us not just life, but life now more abundantly. And one day, at some point, I'm going to break down what he means by life. Because a lot of us, we think that we're living life, but this is not the life that is defined or that Jesus is talking about, that he wants to give it to you more abundantly. He says here, how can I accept some man should guide me? Now, I said that because this now has become the crux to the message of too castrated or too much of a eunuch. In other words, you have taken this thing too far. We have taken affirmative action too far. We've taken the system of Section 8, metropolitan welfare, food stamps, handouts, government cheese, whatever you may think about, staying over with mama too long, staying with your girlfriend too long, not paying our bills, not wanting to pay our bills, not caring about paying a bill, not having a job, not wanting a job, staying in the bed too late, not having a resume, not having a skill to put on a resume, not having a job, not having a history of a job, not wanting to have a history of a job. What a lot of us want, and this is not carte blanche, it's just we have become eunuchs too much, and we just want it. Just give me. Just give me. And on one hand, I hate to even bring this message because this is not all Black people, but it's a lot of Black people. And as I said before, there's a survey out, and in that survey, it talks about, it's a social survey, and it talks about how the median income for African American families by the year 2053 will be at a net zero. And so I'm really trying to address that. So it may sound like I'm getting on people. I'm not really getting on people. It may sound like I'm not preaching the gospel. I am preaching the gospel because I mentioned that Jesus is concerned about the total man, spirit, soul, and body. He's concerned about your life, how you live, how you fare. He's concerned about all that. And at this point, the African American race here in America is so far behind. And as I said before, a lot of that has been handed down. We incurred it. It was not so much that we did it to ourselves. It was incurred upon us by our ancestors. And so ancestors that didn't do things quite right. And then it was incurred on us. More importantly, well, I don't know if it was more importantly or not. It's been just as bad. We don't want to talk about the part that we supposed to own, right? But we want to talk about what happened to us. And so, yes, it was incurred upon us by white America. And we didn't get treated right. We did not get treated right. And so there were systems and structures that we were put in that systemically has plagued us, has become a virus to us even up until this point. And so this is now what I'm trying to address. Now, he says, how can I except some man should guide me? And I just really want to send out a strong rebuke today about being guided by some man. I know we all have to have somebody to help pull us up. This is not what this is saying. And this is not what I am saying. What I am saying here is to be so castrated to the point to where what you have seen has just limited you. You know, you've seen the reports on how how blacks, how they test, how they learn, and that, you know, there's a stigma that, you know, they're not smart people, and just all that. We don't look to get the better jobs anymore. When we go to a doctor, we don't expect to go and find black doctors. You're going to see a few sprinkled here and there, but the expectation for the most part is that you don't see them. You don't expect to see a lot of black engineers, black architects, black scholars that are teaching in universities at the high level. All that is a form of being castrated. All of that is a part of a loss of testosterone, which now has depleted you to the point to where I have no more drive. I have no more ambition. I have no more hope, because there is an environmental castration now that has happened to me. And so he says, unless a man guide me, and he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. He desired Philip. Twofold. One is you need to. The desire of Philip is he was looking for Jesus. Okay, that is to exegete the text properly, but to eisegete the text and to make it culturally relatable, and to be a sound text, to be culturally relatable, is what he was saying here. He says, come up and sit with me. He desired Philip that he would come up and set the desire part, to desire. And I just think that, you know, we've taken it too far. The desire just for somebody else to do it for us. The desire now, can you do this for me? Can you fix this problem for me? Can you fix this car for me? Can you fix this machine? Can you fix this house? Can you fix my marriage? Can you fix this? Can you fix that? I mean, everything is in disarray, and at no point do you feel that, you know, this is something that if I you know, just what you call it, hunker down. If I just hunker down, maybe I can help myself. I can help myself. Okay. And so I want to just stop right there. I really didn't mean to go this long. I want y'all to be blessed today. I want this message to be used for thought. I want you to think about it. I know a lot of y'all feel like, why does he keep talking about this? This is really important. And then it's 1 month out of the year. It is so important. And it's almost like we don't care, and we rather go out and play basketball. We rather go mall shopping. We rather just do a whole lot of stuff, just lay on the couch, go to sleep, whatever, as if nothing is happening to you. It's a lot that is happening to you directly, indirectly, by proxy. And so we really need to take note of it, because if we don't, we're going to be left behind. And I ain't talking about the movie or the book series Left Behind. We're going to continue to be plagued, and I'm just using that word because I don't know another word to use right now, because of a lack of inertia, self-inertia, to want to learn, to succeed, to conquer, to compete, and all those things. Why? Because we have become testosterone depleted by force, number one, and environmentally castrated. Let ruminate on that. Let that marinate. Let them massage that in. Castrated and an environmental castration. Have you ever heard that before? The Lord gave me that, environmental castration. I'm not, I didn't get this from somebody. I got all this just meditating and listening. So this is where we at, and I just really hope that it will help you on today. I want you to be blessed. I love you so much, and God loves you so much more. Be blessed and go in God's speed and God's grace until we meet the next time.